Hello, and Shri Mataji.
Shri
Hello,
Mataji.
Shri Mataji, Luis. Very nice to meet you again, and Shri Mataji to everybody who are watching us. I hope you like our first two episodes. We were talking with Luis about his experiences in Sahaja Yoga, how he get realization, amazing stories, quite uh, should I use the word fantastic? So because I like fantasies, but this is real, a real fantasy, if I can saying that. Um, we stop in London, 1984, if I'm right, and we can go from there asking Luis. I remember you that our plan was to talk about his book. That was our initial project. Those are Luis books that I have it. There are more probably. We will talk about those books when we reach that stage. Until there, I was very, very pleased to listen to Luis' memories, which are sometime, like I said before, fantastic. So, Luis, please.
Right, so you asked me to talk about other Saj Yogis as well that we meet in London. London is full of beautiful Saj Yogis. You know, Mother was here in London. She gave realization to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So of course, I mean, there was a strong collective here where mother is the leader. Really, we all felt that Mother was the leader. There was no other leader except for Mother, although officially there were other people in charge of administration doing very important things for Sahaj, spreading Sahaj all over the world. You know, there were important leaders here also. A lot of Sahaj Yoga spread from England, and Mother was organizing those things. So there was very important leaders here, and Saj Yogas of great experience who spent time with Mother, who did so much for Saj Yoga all over the world. So it's a very interesting place to be and to meet. You know, I mean, it's hard to mention anyone in particular, but I would say, you know, for instance, you know, the whole project of Russia, Mad was very keen to have Saj Yoga spreading in Russia, you see. So I was there at Shuddhi camps. Mother was also there at Shuddhi camps in those days. Mother had invited me and my wife to stay there at Shuddhi camps, you know, while she was there. And one day she came back from one of her many tours, you know, all over the world, and I forgot what country it was or countries. Sometimes mother would do several countries, and she said, "We have now worked out the whole world." She said, "You know, I think also at that time." Nelson Mandela had been released from jail at last, so there was a great hope for South Africa, for freedom there. And mother said, "We have really worked out the whole world now." And I don't know. I like to be honest and say the truth. And I said, Mother, but what about all the communist countries or the whole bloc? It's illegal to even go there and spread Sahaj, you know. So how can you say that, you know? This is not an objection. It's me trying to understand mother's way of thinking, you know. And she said, oh, the communist countries, don't you worry about that because mother knows the future, you see. She said, when it starts there, it'll spread like a wildfire. You know, I said, wow. I imagine this could be maybe in 10 years or 20 years or maybe in 60 years in my mind, you know. But 6 years later, mother sent me to Russia. You see, mother, in no time, she started Sahaj in Russia. Just like she said, it started spreading like wildfire. And 6 months later, mother sent me to Russia to see it with my own eyes. So it was a shock.
Just a second. You said initially 6 years, and my bell
Six months.
rings right away. So probably you want to say 6 months later.
I thought I meant to say 6 months, in fact, very shortly.
Yeah.
Mother sent me to Russia to see how things were there and to help out because
What
so many
what
people.
year was that? 85?
No, no, no. By then must have been 88. I can't
Uh-huh.
remember the years. 87, 88. Mother had started things in Russia too. So mother sent me there as well. I spent a long time there, and it was an interesting experience. I've heard the things I saw were astonishing. The people in Russia were so deep, so interested. For instance, I went to a public program there without mother in person. You know, and the leader talked for almost 2 hours about Saj Yoga. This was the Russian leader talking in Russian, and he talked for 2 hours explaining Sahaj Yoga to the public. And people were not bored or tired. The attention, the intensity, they listened to 2 hours. He then gave realization. Then he said, let's do a meditation now. By now the meeting has gone for 3.5 hours or something, and he asked them to do a meditation for more than an hour. So, and during that 1 hour, these are brand new people who have come for the first time. They sat there in silence meditation for more than an hour. I was starting to fidget and move. I knew I need to stretch my legs, do something else. I mean, this is going on so long. But these new people put me to shame. They are there in silence. What intensity. These are brand new people. Everything mother said was becoming truth. It really could spread like wildfire. The quality of the seekers, the intensity, the desire for the spirit. It was astonishing. Mother used to speak like a prophet who knows the future. And we get the proof, in less than 6 months. It takes an enormous revolution to achieve things like this. But Sahaj Yoga is like a silent revolution. We don't see what's happening underneath. Mother knew it was all ready to go. And when it started, that's it. There it was in front. They had a collective there of Sahaj Yogis. It was an extraordinary experience.
Uh,
I enjoy. Sorry.
do you mind if I ask you some question to put everything in the right timeline? Uh, so you said that Shri Mataji asked you to go to Russia. That's happened in 1988, you said?
I don't remember the exact
Oh,
date to tell you the
okay.
truth, but I know
What's
that this is maybe about 6 months after Nelson Mandela was free.
uh,
Then, Mother sent me to Russia.
Nelson
About six
Mandela,
months,
yes, was free just before 1989,
or sometime.
probably 1 year before, something like that.
It
As
was a
it's happened,
process, yes.
as it's happened in Russia, come in 85 or so, 85, 86, Gorbachev, which
Yes, yes, yes.
allowed this opening. And
Opening. And
my question to you is, please, you've been there with other British Sahaja Yogi?
yes, with Bogdan. Bogdan was based in England in those days. Although
Bogdan,
he's from.
Dr.
But Dr.
Bogdan, who
Bogdan
was
is
Russian.
either Russian or from Ukraine. I can't remember one of those countries there.
Yes, I
He
know
may, he
it's
may not.
Russian, but again, now
In
it's
those days, everything was Russia, but he would say it's not Russia. Actually, it's another country there, another nation within that
can be
bloc.
can be Ukraine.
Could be
And
Ukraine or some other country. I don't remember exactly, but he was based in England. He also had a connection with Australia,
because
and
he live in Australia. I know he live in Australia and
yes, even
practice
today,
in Australia. By the time I know him a little bit, I mean, I meet him only once in Budapest. He was based in Australia. The Australian claim him as Australian.
absolutely. But in those days, he was based in England. He was living with us at Shudi camps as well, and he was organizing those tours. So mother had started going into Russia, but
But
it's
before
one thing.
before before Shimataji, sorry to interrupt you, because I want really to make sense about this, to know how the things are going. So Shimataji sent you there, few Sahaja yogis. You said that they already have Sahaja yogis there, or people who get their realization somehow when you arrive.
True. You see,
But
the,
after that
the
comes Shri Mataji. You have
that's
some
true.
public programs there?
Yes, I mean, there was always a leader in those days called Oleg, who was a Sahaja was living in London, in Russia, but he also worked for the United Nations. So I think Gregoire gave him realization, and
Uh-huh.
he became the leader of Russia for many years, of Sahaj leader of Russia.
Yep.
But officially, he could not spread Sahaj Yoga in the open. Everything was secret. So although he was a Sahaj yogi, the reason is that he could travel, so he could travel abroad and meet Sahaj Yoga. When he went back to Russia, then he had it in secret, you know. So in that sense, there was a little Sahaj presence in Russia through one
Okay.
or two people like that who worked were Russians but who work on the United Nations as well. So there was a couple like him who had jobs with the United Nations, so they knew about Sahaj Yoga via Gregoire de Calmer-Maton, and so there was a little presence there. Then Mother started going there also as well after the Perestroika and Gorbachev. Mother was allowed to go there and have a program upon invitation. It was a very small affair initially. But then Mother declared that now we have worked out the whole world, you see, which includes the whole communist bloc, you see, including Russia, you see, which still was, there were restrictions, you know, strong restrictions. And so I wanted clarification from Mother, and Mother said, you know, you may not see it yet with your eyes. There, actually, in fact, like we don't have big centers there or huge number of such yogis there yet, but what Mother knew is that once it starts, it will spread like a wildfire.
Yes.
And this prophecy of Mother became true because people came in big numbers, in millions almost, to see mothers at programs. There were programs there, thousands and thousands of people who met Mother there. So Mother's prophecy was fulfilled and very fast, really fast.
Yes.
So although I asked this question, which is a stupid question, but when you give a stupid question to Mother, Mother gives you an amazing answer. You see, so sometimes a stupid question gets a very good answer, and so I still remember Mother's answer, and I was rewarded because for asking that question was a honest question. That Mother sent me there to see it with my own eyes. It's a
You go
privilege to
there.
be part
You
of
go
that.
there.
Go there and see and stay there. So I stayed there for 6 months with the Russian Saj yogis. By
Oh,
then, by
six
then there
months.
was, yes, I was there for 6 months. There was
Wow.
already a little network there of Saj yogis. So it was a big experience for me
Only in
and a big
Moscow or
privilege.
in some
Moscow.
other? Only
I
in
stayed
Moscow.
in Moscow most
Yep.
of the time, yes.
Most of the time.
Bogdan was traveling all over the place, giving realization non-stop. He was
Wow.
a very great, dynamic Saj yogi. He knew how to spread Sahaj. He was a master at it. But I played a small role, in the whole process, and it was a big privilege to see that. It so
Wow.
happened that there were many factors, small coincidences, because we had a communist revolution in Portugal. So the man who became the leader of Russia, Oleg, in those days, he also came to Portugal because when there was a revolution, Russia used to send people there to support the revolution, hoping that the country would turn to communism. So Oleg was sent to Portugal also. He stayed on a ship there, stationed in the river, and every night he would come to Lisbon. You see, with a little boat out of his big ship. These are Russian boats, spies like spies. So he was there for 4 or 5 years. In Portugal on a boat, and in the night he would come to Portugal. So when I first met him, we were like friends. He talks Portuguese. I mean, he could talk Portuguese fluently. I couldn't believe this man from Russia speaks fluent Portuguese. He knew our country so well because he had been there all those years during
Wow.
the Portuguese Revolution. You see, so it was an interesting thing because when Mother wanted to send someone there to Russia from England, Mother was saying, "Let's find someone who is compatible." You see, and in the end, Mother sat down with the leader, the Sahaj leader in UK, trying to find a person suitable to send to Russia that Mother felt compatible with the situation. And going down the list, they couldn't find anyone that Mother felt is the right person. His temperament matches with the temperament of the Russians. Mother wanted someone who blends in, who has the same temperament. And then she couldn't find anyone on that list with the leader, you see. And then Mother said, "There's an easy way of doing this. The next person who knocks on the door, will send him to Russia. That's it. That's the right person." Now, this is a strange method, you see. And a few minutes after mother said, I rang the bell. I was coming to see mother. It was me. Mother said, congratulations. You've been chosen to be sent to Russia.
Go to Siberia.
It was an extraordinary experience,
I have to share with you
And
a little bit of put it the Russian story in the bigger context of the communist country, because I lived those times, like you lived those
yes, yes.
time in Portugal with the attempt of the communist
Communist
revolution,
too. Yes.
which probably was transformed in the Carnation Revolution. I remember
Yes, yes,
the
yes.
Carnation Revolution going, getting rid of Salazar. I know a little bit about, I'm passionate about history, politics, and things like that. But what I know for sure is the history of the communist country and the Eastern Bloc, and uh, because I lived them. We were lucky because Gorbachev come into power in Russia. Because if Gorbachev didn't come into power in Russia, none of all these openings of perestroika uh, won't be possible. So that um, way of playing chess by Shri Mataji allowed Gorbachev to come in power and do that opening. And after that, not necessarily through the back door, everything was possible, including the fell of all the communist country era from the Eastern blocs.
Big
Because
freedom, yes.
if Russia do not have this opening, no matter how many people go to do demonstration in Bucharest and Varsovia, Budapest and Prague, won't be possible, because we know the history of Russians and the way how they suppress all this movement. They know how to drive tanks over the people. So it's happened in Budapest in 56, it's happened in Prague in 68. We know this kind of, so we expect the same if someone will rise. But luckily, the Russian change, because if they don't change, few of their leaders died, not only Khrushchev and Brezhnev, sorry, not only
Yes,
Brezhnev, but few others, until the right person come, because the others who die, who
yes.
stay, some of them stay 6 months, another one stay a little bit more, they die because if they stay in power, was worse than Brezhnev. They was the leader of the KGB, the people who died, the leader who died. Gorbachev was also sent, and Shimataji speak very, very nice about him after that. I want to make that little
There's something else. I could say something else about Gorbachev because
yes.
mother gave a lot of importance to Gorbachev. Um, One day I was at home here in London and I couldn't sleep. Something drove me out of bed. I just couldn't sleep. So I got up. Must have been 4 a.m. And I felt like putting the news on or something. But in those days, there was no news. At 4 a.m., there's no news. There was a thing called CFAX. And I don't usually read CFAX. But in those days, okay, this is the only source of news. I'm going to put CFAX. I put CFAX on and I saw, oh, there's a coup, a military coup in Russia, you see. And I knew that mother was going that night, that morning, you see. I was reading the news at 4 a.m. and I knew that then at 7 a.m., very early morning, mother is going to Russia for doing Saj Yoga. And I can see on the news here on CFAX that there is there is a military coup, in Russia, see. So this is a dangerous thing. And I felt, shall I ring Shri Mataji's house and warn about this? because then I said, no, I must not, because if I send this warning, there's a chance RCP, her husband, might say, look, it's not safe for you to travel, so don't go. And then mother, being a good wife and very obedient, she probably will not go if her husband asks her not to go. She may not go just to, because not to make her husband anxious about her safety or nervous. So I don't want to restrict mother's freedom that way. And besides, mother knows everything. So mother went. And when she arrived, the Saj yogis were waiting for her. They said, oh, we are so sorry, mother, that you came and there is this coup. We didn't have a chance to warn you, you know. And mother tells the story. No, but that's precisely why I wanted to come.
Exactly.
One more reason why I wanted to come
Ex-
is to
yes.
help Gorbachev, to give him some support because the coup took him out of power temporarily, during a few days. He lost power. There was a danger of all the freedom to disappear. I remember when I came to Russia, mother told me, remember that it's against the law to talk about God. So in our public programs, you cannot talk about God. You can talk about the all pervading power of nature. So that sounds a bit more scientific. So mother warned me that don't mention God directly. Talk about the Kundalini, the self realization, the all pervading power of nature. That they understand because they're great scientists, and they're great seekers. They understand that. So once or twice the Saj Yogi, and sometimes Russian Saj Yogis giving the program, they mention God, and some people stood up in the audience. This is illegal. I mean, because someone translated for me, it is illegal to talk in public meetings about God or spreading the word of God, So the Saj Yogi had to apologize, for that. The Russians are very strict, they're not ashamed to say what they think, So members of the public immediately told the Yogi off for talking about God. So he corrected himself. Yes, the all pervading power of nature. Okay, so that's fine. So mother had a solution for that. So, in mother's eyes, the job was done because she planted the seeds and the seeds sprouted in big numbers. So many people came to see her. So she felt she had done the job, and I agree. She had done the job. You see, now that she laid the foundations, the work can continue anytime. It's all there, But Gorbachev, as you say, was someone very important to Mother because he brought that freedom. So extremely important.
We have
So
to we have to tell to our audience that the story about Shri Mataji going in Russia to support Gorbachev was in 1991 in August when this coup occurred. For a very short time, Gorbachev was out of power. The old structures of the Communist Party of Russia that doesn't agree with his opening. They want to go back and managed to send him away for a few days. Finally, by Shri Mataji's will and presence, she have to be there. Everything was restored. Coup failed with the help of another guy who wasn't the same stature of Gorbachev, was Yeltsin, uh,
yes, yes,
but
yes,
he was a good tool for stopping the coup going further and restoring Gorbachev to power. Unfortunately, the restoring to power of Gorbachev wasn't complete, wasn't full, but enough for the country to be free. After that, Yeltsin came to power for few good years. He wasn't not even close to the political status and the force, the subtle force of Gorbachev. He was a drunkard, we know. And after that come Putin. And the rest is history.
yes.
So I want to make sure
But
that people know exactly what are we talking about, and just a little bit more. I want to emphasize about the falling of the communists in the Eastern Bloc. like I said, without Gorbachev, without Russia, all the Eastern Bloc's country from Poland to Bulgaria, six country, Yugoslavia, it's another story, um, do not have the chance to get rid of the communism. So only thanks to Gorbachev, we can do that, because when the first attempt to get rid of the old regime communists from Poland was the first, and Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia by that time. When the first attempt was done, the first thing of the Russian was to crush them. And the
Yeah.
first attempt from the leadership from their country was to crush them and ask Russia to help. And Gorbachev said no. Gorbachev said, no, I won't come to help you. I won't crush them, and I don't advise you to crush them. That's why all the revolution in those countries succeed without blood or too much blood, because in Prague was one person who died. In any other country, maybe by accident or some
Yes.
stupid stuff. But in Romania, they die by hundreds, because it was only the blood revolution who doesn't listen to Gorbachev and said, okay, you won't help us, but we will help ourselves. And they cling to the power with the price of the so many hundreds of people who die in those days of the revolution. Sorry for the interference.
No, no, it's completely the correct subject. I mean, the point I was making is that Mad was looking for someone, whose temperament is compatible, you see, with Russia. And because I came from a country who went through a kind of a communist revolution, and even the leader of Russia spoke fluent Portuguese, so it was an immediate feeling at home there. I felt, oh my God, this reminds me the days of the revolution in Portugal. I can speak in Portuguese with the national leader of Russia, and we became friends. And it was a very easy way to break the ice, so to say. So
Yes,
mother's goal of finding someone compatible somehow worked. Mother had powers, but the method, she said, how are you going to find someone compatible? Going down the list of people in Sahaj, she said, it'll be the next person who knocks on the door. Well, I didn't knock on the door. I rang the bell, but that's the same.
was
And then
was the
when I
same. Ring
knocked,
the bell.
when I knocked on the mother's room, I had to knock on mother's room.
Yeah.
She said, "Congratulations, you've been chosen to be sent to Russia." I said, "This is shocking." But you
Wow.
had also asked me a question to talk about the Yogis. So, the stories, not from me, because not to talk just about my personal stories. I would say in Russia, I heard the story that it's one of my favorite stories of Sahaj. Although I didn't see it in person, but I received it secondhand. Someone told me that there was a time Mother went to Russia to give public programs, and lots of Sahaj yogis came from all over the world, to join the tour. And there were so many people coming that the Russians didn't expect. The local Russians, Sahaj yogis in Russia, didn't expect quite so many foreigners to come, Sahaj yogis from abroad, to help. So they had a room, you see, which is not very big, for people to sleep on the floor on sleeping bags. And so the Sahaj yogis could stay there, the foreign Sahaj yogis. And so they did, you see. So they had put some bits of food and drinks, for the guests, as well. So people had a place to stay, to sleep there on the floor, sleeping bags, a table with some food and drinks. And so a tramp from the streets, a very poor person, very dirty, very bad smell, like a drunk, but smelling really, like a person who's been sleeping on the streets. He was so drunk, he was urinating on himself. So you can imagine the stench of a person who, for months, because he's totally drunk, urinates on himself, on his own clothes, and sleeps like that. And this man entered into the room of the Saj yogis, and he helped himself the food and the drink. And then he saw people are sleeping here. He probably has nowhere to sleep, so he also put himself to sleep there, you see. So this was the problem, is that people didn't have enough space in that room to sleep. There was no space. The moment that beggar arrives and sleeps on the floor and lies on the floor, everybody moved by 2 meters around him because no one could stand. The stench was unbearable. So suddenly there was a lot of space for people to sleep. See if you don't mind the smell, you know. So it's magic. I mean, this man proved to them that there was so much space. They thought there was not enough space, but his arrival, the moment he lied down, wow, there was a massive area of available space to sleep around him. Those who want to see. So that was the first shock. So next day they had to go and meet mother, and mother's coming to the airport, arriving, and so they started walking to go. They were already close to the airport, so they had to walk to the airport. And this Trump, he followed them. He came with the Saj yogis. Wherever they went, he came. So then they had to cross the road to go to the airport to meet mother. Mother was there already. Mother had already come through customs. She was outside, ready to cross the road. The Satyogis are coming with a tramp as well. This man smelling very bad, and they all cross the road and leave the tramp behind. At this point, the tramp feels shy to come and cross the road and meet mother, you see, so he's there alone. So all the Satyogis cross the road to meet mother. Only the tramp stayed there on the other side of the road alone, feeling very shy. I don't belong here. I cannot go and meet this lady. Do you know what Shri Mataji did? Shri Mataji went alone, crossed the road alone, picked the man by the hand, like they are brothers and sisters, and crossed the road with him by the hand, and brought him with great love to join the gang of Saj Yogis to be part. You know, Mother did not exclude him, and she held his hand and spent time with him and everything. And the Saj Yogis were all keeping a distance of 2 meters from him, and he was just following the gang. But when when everybody crossed the road and left him alone, Mother crossed the road, went there, and brought him by the hand. And I thought, what a lovely story. I wish I'd seen this with my eyes. But thank God the Saj Yogis record these little stories, they mean a lot to me.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would like to tell you another story now because you asked me to tell stories from other yogis, not from me.
Please, yes.
Here in England, there was a Saj Yogi who told me also a story I find very interesting. And this Saj Yogi, although living in England, he comes from Latin America, a very hot country, and he was staying at mother's house. He was going through a very difficult time in his life. I think it doesn't matter the details of his life. They were very sad. He was going through a big, big difficulty. Maybe not divorce. It was his wife. His wife was unwell or very unwell. You see, in hospital. He was living alone. His wife was in hospital. So he was in a terrible situation. I invited him to come and stay with her at her house to cheer him up. And one day, mother came in. So this was August. Supposed to be summer. He comes from a hot country. And mother said, well, you are still looking a bit sad, let's cheer up. He said, oh, mother, it's the weather. The weather really depresses me here. This is supposed to be summer and it's raining. It's a miserable weather. And mother said, I will change the weather for you. It doesn't matter. If you want a really nice hot summer, I can give you that, so long as you are happy. So mother did that. Next day there was a heat wave. Here in England, this is very rare. I mean, there were no fans. Everybody bought all the fans. People were asking, "Can you find a fan for Shri Mataji?" No, we can't. They disappeared. Everybody bought the fans. People are not used to the heat. There was no fans. Mother wanted a fan for Sir CP, because he has a bit of chest problems. He suffers from chest problems, to breathe. Mother wanted some fans. Everybody was trying to find a fan for mother. Nobody could find it. So mother went shopping and she found the fans because mother has all the powers. There was no fans, but mother found lots of fans for cooling down. So mother went out shopping, bought a few things. So when mother came back, this Sajogi, the one from Latin America, who caused this heat wave. He caused the heat wave because he complained of the weather. And mother said, okay, to cheer you up, you want a hot summer? I'll give you a hot summer. It was too much. It was too hot. He was happy with it. But so mother arrived after going shopping and he went to see mother at the car to help bring in the shopping. And mother looked at his face and says, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's happening now? There seems to be a big problem. And says, yes, mother, there's a big problem because while you were away, we had to open all the windows because it's so hot. And the neighbors were burning their rubbish in the backyard. and all the smoke from that burning was going to the window of Sir CP. So this is not good for his chest, you know. So he felt a bit worried because, as a Saj Yogi, he says to Mother, I wasn't able to do anything to solve this problem. I was worried of going and tell the neighbors off because this is very rude and they would become enemies then. So I did not want to upset the neighbors, so I couldn't do that. If I close the windows, it's too hot. If I open the windows, the smoke is disturbing Sir CP, is coughing, coughing, so I don't know what to do. And Mother says, but this is such an easy problem to solve. All you had to do is to change the direction of the wind. Just do that. And the Sage Yogi says, Mother, but I'm only human. How can I change the direction of the wind? And Mother says, but aren't you a Sage Yogi? You have vibrations on your hands. You just change the direction of the wind with your hands, with your vibrations. It's that simple. And as Mother was talking and doing this with the hands, the clouds moved from one end to the other. Mother said, okay, then you can bring them back where you want. This means we move the wind, we move the clouds, everything. And Mother says to him, and tomorrow you can do the same. You can do it. Oh, Mother, how can I do that? But Mother said, tomorrow you burn a nice fire in the backyard, and then you decide where the wind goes. And make sure it doesn't go to Circe's room, that's all. So long as you do that, you've achieved it, you see. So he did that, and he could do it. So I said, that's an interesting story. The way Mother trusts that we have powers also to do these things. He tried it, and it worked. I said, this is a story that I'm very thankful that this Saj Yogi shared this story with me. There's another story where a Saj Yogi shared a story with me that was like a vital, like a miracle when he shared that story of Mother, you see. It takes a little longer to tell this story. But basically, the situation is we're living in Cardiff, I think I already told you. And my wife had a job in Merthyr Tydfil, which is, a mining place, where the miners, very strong unions and miners there used to be. And she got a job in the council working there, my wife. And because we live in Cardiff, it takes a little longer to go to Merthyr Tydfil by train every day. They gave her flexi time. She could start at 10 a.m. So everything was well. Then suddenly the council was going into great financial difficulties, and the unions and the workers, they all agreed together unanimously. Let us. Everybody should do 1 hour of free work for the council every day. Instead of starting at 9 o'clock, everybody starts at 8 and works 1 hour for free. This will help the financial pressures. Now, my wife couldn't do that. She couldn't start. And there's no more flexi time. Nobody can start at 10. Everybody starts because everybody now is starting at 8 instead of 9. Flexi time is over. Now she cannot go to work. She will have to give up that job. But Shri Mataji told her, because Carol had given up 2 jobs in a row. She had 2 jobs, there was some difficulties, and she gave up those jobs. Mother found out, oh, that job, you have a job. You asked me to help you find a job. I found you a job. You gave it up. Some problems, yes, some problems, and so she gave it up. Another job she got, again, she gave it up because there was a problem. And now she felt I have to give up this job, you see. Third time in a row after mother warned me, don't just give up a job. Try to work it out with your powers. Have some faith. Give it some time, the problems might solve. But she couldn't come to work, so she asked me, and that was, a bit dangerous, asking me my advice, can you find me a legal solution. And because I studied law in Portugal, we had a revolution there. I was brought up in that spirit. I said, yes, if this was in Portugal, you should do a one-man strike immediately. You go on strike, you see. It's a one-man strike. And in a month or two, everybody will join you for sure because it's not right. You see, it's against the contract. Asked to work an extra hour without pay. This is not right. But all the workers agreed unanimously in that. So it's quite a difficult situation. But I was not impressed. This is your solution. You go on a strike. You resist. You don't obey that, and you continue to come every day at 10 a.m. as you used to. So she started a one-man strike or a one-woman strike. Everything went well, except people were very angry with her. They say, oh, you are behaving like a duchess. You arrive at 10 o'clock in the morning, all the workers arrive at 8, and you arrive at 10, and you call it a one-man strike. We are all men here. We are not doing that. You are doing that. You are putting us to shame. This is a horrible thing to do. When will you stop that? But she carried on. Otherwise, she'd have to give up the job, and she didn't want to give up a third job in a row. Now, then a big problem started, you see. Suddenly, someone committed a very serious crime at work. The crime was like this. The council was in financial difficulty, so our boss, Carl's boss, decided to dig up some old graves in order to free up space to bury the people now. What does it matter? It's just very old graves. No one knows who they are, probably. Let's just dig them up and that's it. The land is free to new burials, free of charge. No need to buy more land. Except it's a big crime because actually people knew who those graves were. They knew their relatives were there. They were furious. It was a serious crime. So the problem is that on Carol's job description, she was responsible for that graveyard. This was part of her job description and their contract. But their boss gave her verbal orders saying, don't ever go to that cemetery. Don't waste your time going there. I'm in charge of that cemetery. You do other projects. You don't even go there. So she didn't know what happened. It all happened behind the back. And now the boss was saying, well, she's in charge. It's a problem. You know. So that's a serious legal problem now. So, Carol, now I have a second legal problem now. It looks like I'm going to jail for a crime I didn't commit. And it's hard for me to prove I didn't do it. I didn't know about it. In fact, I didn't know because my boss told me not to go there ever. They did it behind my back. So I said, my God, now this is a serious legal problem for me to solve. And I said, well, when you don't have a solution in Portugal, you pray to the Virgin Mary. You do a little pilgrimage to the Virgin Mary, and somehow the Virgin Mary might give you a solution, an idea, or you find a way out, you see. So I said, let's do that. Well, the Virgin Mary, as far as I'm concerned, is Shri Mataji, and she was living in London. So our little pilgrimage, we go to London. You never know. It's a pilgrimage to the Virgin Mary, except it's a pilgrimage to Shri Mataji, where she is in London. That's plan A. If you are lucky, you may even see Mother. Who knows? I mean, you'd have to be very lucky for that. We're just going for one weekend, and Mother is so busy. But, we stayed at the ashram, and luckily there was a message. Anyone who is free, come to Mother's house to give a little help if you are free. Goodness, I have nothing else to do, so now I have even better. I can go to see Mother, and I went to see. Very simple jobs. We were carrying some furniture to storage. People had different jobs. This is the job they gave me to help carry some furniture into storage out of Mother's house. New furniture. And when I arrived there, I saw Mother. Mother was very nice, but there were so many of us. And Mother said, I want you all to eat your pizzas because Mother ordered lots of pizzas for all of us. And once you've eaten your pizzas, take a little rest and then you can start work, all right? So now I'm going to have a siesta. So that's it. I saw Mother and Mother disappeared. She told us, we have our food, take a little rest, and I'm going to have a rest now also. That's it. I couldn't tell Mother my legal problem that Carol is could go to jail for a crime she didn't commit, or at least her job will be wrecked forever, her career will be finished. A very serious problem for me. And I have a responsibility now to solve this because I created the problem also by telling her to go on a one-man strike. So I felt responsible for this, but no chance. So we ate our pizza, we rested a little bit. Mother never came out of her room. So now we went on the van with the furniture, you see. Now the person driving the van was an English Sajog and a good friend of mine. And usually we have to chat a lot. We talk and talk and talk with each other. We're friends. But that day I told him, look, don't ever talk to me today now. I need to do an important meditation now to Mother because I have something urgent to tell Mother, and I'm going to say it to the photograph in meditation while you drive. So don't disturb me. Don't talk to me. So I closed my eyes. I put the photo there on the car, on the van. And there I am, very serious, telling Mother all this serious legal problem, this and that, in silence, but talking to Mother, to the photograph, and he's telling me, Luis, there's something wrong with you. You are making me nervous. Let's talk, let's say something. What's wrong? What's your problem, you see? Can I help? What's wrong with you, you see? You look really serious. Yes, please don't disturb me. Let me in silence. But he could, after a while. Come on, Luis, what's wrong? Are you going bonkers or what? Let's talk a little bit. Let me tell you something nice, he says. Okay, listen to this. The other day, he says to me, the other day I was driving Mother, in a car, not the van, and we were passing, see that building there, nice building. Yes, very nice building, but it's empty building. Yes, and Mother saw the building, and Mother started giving bandans to the building as we were driving. And then Mother asked me to drive around the building again. Instead of going where we were going, mother changed her mind and asked me, go and drive a little longer around that building. Mother wanted to see that empty building again, which was like a ghost, that building. A big disaster. That building had gone bankrupt. So it was a modern building, very nice, called Center Point. It's still there. But whoever bought that building would go bankrupt and nothing would work. The building was empty, not in use. The owners go bankrupt, has to be sold again. The new owners bought it and got bankrupt. That building was giving very bad luck to people. And mother cares for the economy. And so mother's giving bananas to an empty building, and to that place, And so I said, but why your nurse, Did you not ask mother why? So yes, my friend asked mother, why are you giving bananas to an empty building, And mother said, yes, because these bankruptcies are not auspicious, This is very serious. And the reason why these bankruptcies took place is because when we were building the building on the foundations, they disturbed the graves of very important people. They didn't know. These are very ancient graves, very, very ancient. And they felt, okay, instead of doing properly with respect like they do sometimes, they didn't want to delay the project and they just pretend it's not there and they disturb the graves and they not treat them with respect. And so Mother says, amongst those people buried there, there was a very high realized soul there as well, And it's very inauspicious to disturb the grave of a highly realized soul as well on top. So now there is this problem of this bankruptcies is like a curse, and Mother is kind of removing the curse, you see. So that's it. This guy telling me this story answered my question, and now I know what to do, you see. Carol has to instead of doing this one-man strike, she has to quit the job in protest for the disturbances of the graves, of these ancient graves at the cemetery in Merthyr Tydfil where she was working. She has to do a protest and resign in protest. She has to make a public stand, you see. So she called a meeting of all the bosses, and at that meeting she handed a resignation in protest for the disturbance of the ancient graves. A big insult, So that's it. She left. So later on, much later on, of course, our bosses went to jail. They paid big fines. They lost their careers. Everybody in that department suffered a lot. But Carol was innocent. She didn't know about that crime. She had nothing to do with this, So she went to another job interview, and they asked her, "So your career, you changed jobs very fast. What happened to the last three jobs? Your last now it's not two, it's three. She gave up two jobs, and now this last one she resigned, so three jobs." And she said, "Oh, this last job I had to give it up in protest, you see, for that disturbance at the grave." Oh my God, we read about you. So you are that lady who resigned in protest, the only person who resigned in protest for that situation. You are a great hero of us. You are a person of great professional integrity. And she got the job. So going to see mother, that little pilgrimage to London, and although I couldn't speak to mother directly like this, I spoke to a photograph. Mother gave me the answers through one of these memories, a story of mother, which was the exact explanation of our problem. You see, this is so inauspicious, you have to separate yourself from it, otherwise you have bankruptcy. Here, the bankruptcy is a kind of a metaphor for you ruin your career. You are in great trouble. So it gave me the inspiration, you resign in protest. you know, you've been protesting with your strike, now you resign in protest, and that solved the problem. But I give the credit to mother. And I give the credit to Saj yogis that they memorize these little incidents with mother. And
Well,
these little incidents can be very useful to know. At least on that occasion, I benefited a lot from my friend sharing that story. So, well, that was in response. You asked me to talk about other Saj yogis, so there's a few now.
yes, no, very, very interesting stories, and I couldn't wait to listen to the more stories. But that will happen if you agree in the next episode. So, which will be soon. So, if it's all right with you, for the moment, we will say goodbye to our viewers, and we will see you soon.
Jai Shri Mataji.
Jai
Thank
Shri
you for
Mataji.
inviting us.
Jai Shri Mataji.